Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. Today I'm going to be giving you beginner's tips, design tips, things that you need to know.
Fuck a hater, motherfucker, get that money. Fuck a hater, motherfucker, go get money.
There's no way I would ever start a YouTube video like that. It's fucking so stupid.
Okay, so my camera's in the shop. That's a lie. My camera's broken, and I am too lazy to take it to the shop. So I'm gonna use my camera on my computer. Also, my hair looks just fuck off. Also, my my hair looks pretty disgusting today, so I'm gonna wear this beanie. All right, that's a better angle. So yeah. I'm Long Story Shorts. That's my Instagram name. Long Story Shorts, Long Story Studios, The Long Story, that expression. It's my brand. But my name is Ryan. Ah, fuck, shouldn't have given you my last name. I'll just bleep that out. So, I'm a graphic designer. Chances are you follow my page on Instagram, and that's how you know how to even find this video. But anyway, I'm gonna do a tutorial today. Basically, just doing like, little tips and tricks. Yeah, this is for basically, designers who are doing cover art and concept art for themselves for fun. People who have clients who are like, can you make my designs pop? Which just basically means, can you make them better? Also, quick little precursor to this whole thing. I am not a professional graphic designer. I myself probably know the ins and outs of about, 60% of Photoshop. I mean, that thing is a fucking beast. It's a lot. And, I'm good. I'm not going to shit on my own work. But basically, I'm trying to say, I'm going to give you a very simple tutorial that can help improve your designs. Nothing groundbreaking. I'm probably going to miss stuff because this is the first YouTube video I've ever made. There's probably going to be a lot of stuff in it that you're like, you didn't explain that well at all. And hopefully, if you like the video, even though some of it is, I'll make more and they'll get better. So now I'm going to just make a design, essentially, and screen record it and talk along with it.
Once again, I'd like to apologize for the ridiculous camera, but it is what it is. So basically, the first thing I do when I do a design is I make the dimensions 3000 by 3000 because that's the industry standard. At least I'm pretty sure it is. You can challenge me on that. And then I'll place my background, size up the background, place my subject. In this case, we're going to do Juice Wrld. And I'm going to basically talk about two specific ways you can cut people out. So if you want to use the quick selection tool, you basically just click around the subject and then hit select subject, hit OK. And then you're going to inverse the layer and delete the background. But yeah, as you can see, it doesn't usually do a very good job and leaves a lot of details out. Jesus' face is completely fucked up. So yeah, I usually use the pen tool, and the pen tool is a lot more accurate and it lets you make curves. For instance, like on the edge of a jacket, you bend it a little bit. Also, my screen recording of my design when I sped it up got super glitchy. So a lot of this video, I decided not to speed up. This part I did, apologize for all the glitches. But yeah, like this specifically here, you can see that you can get very specific with the pen tool and you can get in on all the little curves around hair. It's very good for hair. It's going to be tedious and really annoying and you're not going to want to do it. I don't want to do it, but you have to, and you got to use the pen tool. Usually I'll then convert that subject to a smart object, which makes it into a PNG because you masked it. And then the next most important thing I think to do, step-by-step wise, is to match as best you can your subject to the background, color wise. And for that I go into selective color. And this is this takes a bit of explaining, but basically if you go to the reds and you boost the red, you boost the cyan to the left, you're gonna make it more red. If you lower it, it's gonna make it more blue. So I'm gonna lower it here, because this is a blue background. Vice versa, you go the opposite of each colorway. I don't I never studied color. You just have to mess around with it. And then the next thing that I do usually is I start shading and lighting the subject. This also, I had a speed art, but I didn't include it because it got super glitchy. I'll figure out a different way to record my designs so that this doesn't happen in the future. But basically with shading and lighting, there's 3 different settings. It's called the burn and dodge tool. And what you're gonna do is with the burn tool, there's 3 different sections, and it's highlights, shadows, and midtones. Highlights are going to darken the brightest parts of the image. Midtones darken the midtones, and shadows darken the darkest parts of the image. And this is like vice versa with the brightness. So highlights, if you have something dark and you use the dodge tool and you have it set on highlights and you're trying to make it brighter, it's not gonna work because first you're gonna have to brighten it with shadows and then midtones, and then usually you can get to the highlights and make it brighter if you have to like switch completely where the light is coming from. And that's another thing that's important about lighting, where it's coming from. So as you can see, I'm like darkening one side of Juice Wrld and making the other side brighter because the light is coming from one side of the image. And it's going to be the same thing with the shadow. This is something that I do with shadows not all the time. I did it with this just because I wanted to show you guys just like some random, like this is definitely not a way that I think you're supposed to make shadows, but I do it sometimes and it works. So yeah, you copy the image and then you make it black. And then you move it around and you manipulate it so it looks like it's the shadow. And then you blur the shit out of it. Yeah, you blur the fuck out of it. And then you erase some of it. And you just, you experiment and you make it, you erase it. You could like darken parts of it and you make it look like a natural shadow. But like that's the setup to get to that point, if that makes sense. And you'll see me do it here a little bit. Obviously, like I said, I wasn't able to show all of the details because my computer was being an asshole. It's also important to darken and brighten the areas of the background too, by the feet, by the edges, where the light is coming from. I also did this design pretty quickly, so it's not even really the best example, but I didn't have any speed arts of or screen recordings of any of a lot of my better designs lately. It's not a bad design, but okay. Here's one of the things that I mentioned earlier about making your designs pop, or not pop, but when clients ask you to make your designs pop and you don't know what the fuck they're talking about. If you add light behind subjects and blend it, it just like creates more depth. So a lot of the time I'll paint light behind the subject from the side that they're getting lit from, usually a little bit on the other side too, because light travels. It doesn't just hit the side of your face and then none of this side of your face, And now I'm going to talk about one of the ways that I've learned recently how to do highlights on the edges of characters. So that's like where the light is directly hitting them. So what you're going to do is you create a new adjustment layer and you click hue and saturation. And then you're going to click the icon that makes it clip to your subject. And you're going to hit colorize. And then you are going to match it with the color around the subject. So in this case it's light blue, and then you hit Command I, and when you hit Command I, this is why I said I'm not a professional graphic designer. I don't really know. I think it masks something. It connects that layer and it disappears, or it looks like it disappears, but it doesn't. And I think it's a layer mask. That's what it is. Anyway, it creates a layer mask. And then you use the paintbrush to lighten areas, basically paint the light on, like basically make it reappear, or get rid of it with black paint. White paint makes it appear, black paint makes it disappear. And you can hit X to reverse between the colors. And the opacity, obviously at the very edges, you're gonna want it to be like the brightest, and then like further in on someone's arm, it'll be softer. But that's one of the new things that I've learned about highlights, specifically like coloring with highlights. Another tip about making your designs pop, painting over your subject's eyes, because that's going to make it stand out more. Usually the photograph, or you can use the dodge tool on it also and brighten it that way. But Sometimes it makes it look cooler, almost a little animated, if you do it this way. And that just adds a little more life to your design. And it makes it so that you can see their eyes better. Sometimes you're like, where the fuck is this person's eyes? You know? And it's because they didn't brighten them. The next thing I usually do is add mist and smoke layers. You're gonna have to rasterize them or convert them to smart objects, but usually I'll take the smoke and mist, I'll mess with blending modes, mess with the lighting, adjust the brightness, the darkness, the exposure, all that. Like I said, I'm basically just giving you guys a lot of setups for these things, and then you may find experimenting like me better techniques than I'm even telling you in this video. Because like I said, I do a lot of experimenting when I design. And then I'd say one of the other most important things, or one of the things that I've found now that makes my designs look so much better, is adjustment layers. Once you're done doing all that stuff, it's really important that you add or you affect the curves, the levels, or the shadows. You mess with the whites and the blacks. It's also important to do the selective color. Unless you have if your design is supposed to have a specific color, pops, don't do this. But a lot of the time when I'm done with the design, I'll add a selective color adjustment layer over the whole thing so that I can manipulate the colors of the whole design instead of just an individual layer. And then sometimes that makes it more cohesive looking. But adjustment layers are key, especially the levels. You really just, the levels, brightness, contrast, you mess with that stuff. It's gonna make your designs better. Mess with that stuff. That's my tip. And then a lot of the time I'll also add a little bit of light to the other side of the subject, because like I said, it takes practice, but learning how light works, I still don't fully know how light works. But at least my designs look better now because I know a little bit more about it. So it's pretty important to know the direction the light is coming from, and then just think. You can even look up images and or go outside, just look at how light hits things. In movies, in TV shows, music videos, like literally anything. Light is pretty much the same in most art in terms of how it affects whatever's in the piece. And then this is just some like random details. I'm adding in some meteors. Like, then you take the tips I added, or I told you earlier in the tutorial, and change the coloring. Usually I blur stuff that's in the background too. I don't know if I mentioned that. Oh, and then finally I'll add textures. If the design warrants textures. Not all designs need textures. A lot of my designs don't have any textures, but they do help a lot. And adding noise or grain to your images when stuff doesn't fully look cohesive, like it's one image, can like save your designs. And I just added smoke at the front just to give it like some atmosphere in the front, like more depth, because you want to have, you know, a foreground, a middle ground, and a background to your image. I mean, if you want. Obviously there's designs that aren't like that, but if you're trying to make a realistic design, that kind of thing is important. I just, I'll go over everything again. I'll look at the design one last time at the end and add a couple more adjustment layers, or go back in and brighten something here or erase something there. It's really just a lot of experimenting and changing things, trial and error, until you get a result that you're satisfied with.